Welcome back to The Mouse and Men, where we explore the grown-up side of Disney. Find us online at themouseandmen.com, where you can find our top 10 things for grown-ups to do in Walt Disney World, plus links to all of our social media profiles. So follow us there as well. We also broadcast the podcast on YouTube. I am Bradley. I'm here with my co-caster, Chris. Chris, we're talking about traveling with kids. We'll be talking about little kids at first. We may get to big kids today. We may get to that next week. But how you doing?
Man, I'm doing so good. Just the idea of getting ready for the summer means that this year, like my family and I, we're about a month away from a vacation, which we pretty much had to scrap every vacation from last year due to the pandemic. And so just the idea that we're sitting in May, we're planning for something a month away, it's exciting because last year we just had to scrap everything and just say like, well, I hope that you enjoy like a slip and slide, because that's about the extent of what we're going to be able to do for fun this year to try to stay as safe as possible. But things are opening up. We've got Disney open. We've got Disneyland open now. And so it excites me to think about the idea of being on that vacation mindset. So I love that we're going to be talking about this today, because it means that hopefully we're getting ready to vacay. Those that are listening are getting ready to vacay. Hopefully get some good tips out of how to travel with kids, and especially toddlers.
Yeah. So we'll get started with toddlers. So let's just jump right into it. I've got a 19-month-old now at home. Just a few years ago, you had a couple young ones in your house as well, even traveling to Disney World when they were about 5 and 3, which we talked about a little bit last week. So just trying to think through some of the things of what are some tips we have for parents going to Disney World, specifically with little ones, with toddlers. And though I've not taken my little one to Disney World, having been there enough and knowing, having traveled just to grandparents' houses down in Georgia, and meeting them in Florida, what kind of stuff do we take? What was not necessary? And the first thing I got to say is we've got a big stroller at home. It's a jogger stroller because I can take it anywhere. I can run with it. It's fine for walking. It's got storage. It's got cup holders. It's got a tether so that it won't get away from me on a jog. But I'm not sure that I want to take that to Disney World. One, if I'm flying, it's just going to be a pain to fly with. Two, it's going to take up trunk space if I'm driving. 3, if I'm trying to get in and out of hotel rooms, I mean, I can't just leave it outside. I mean, I guess I could chain it up with a bike lock, but getting in on and off buses, parking it at the parks, it's just a pain. So the smaller stroller you can get, like one of those umbrella strollers, I think is what they're called.
Kind of fold up into each other.
Yeah,
into
because
itself.
when you're hopping on a bus, I mean, you've got diaper bag, snacks, rain jackets, whatever you're carrying, water bottles. The last thing you need is a big, heavy stroller. So my advice is take as small of a stroller as you can, where your kid's still going to be comfortable for most of the day, because let's be honest, they're not walking 5 to 10 miles a day when they're just barely learning to walk.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip. Again, what you were saying with the more luxurious stroller that you have at your house is great for if you're walking around the neighborhood. I'm sure that like the shock absorbers and things make for a really smooth ride for your little one. And those are really nice, but they are beasts to carry around with. And if you're just going to throw something in the trunk or to the back of your SUV or something to go to a mall or to go to the grocery store, that's all well and good. But if you're having to consider space when you're traveling with an entire family down to Disney or to Disneyland or wherever you're going for your summer trip, size is a consideration. And so I know that for our kids, we had one that we used. It was kind of a double stroller. And it was, again, great for traveling around town or walking around the neighborhood. Not good because it took up essentially most of the trunk space that we had at that time. And so I believe that one time we rented a stroller when we got down to Disney, so we didn't even have to bring it down. And the cost was a bit exorbitant. So I think that when the kids are like 3 and 5 years old, we took smaller strollers. And I think, no, that's when we rented strollers. And I think individually, if we needed to, one of us would like carry a kid. And I think the other one was in the actual stroller itself. But yeah, it is nice to be able to have something that's pretty luxurious, but space when you're traveling and space when you're in the parks is at a premium because you've got people, they're walking fast or they're clipping by you. And so as small of a footprint as you can create when you're in the parks also is just going to make that much more of a nice experience for you as the parent. And I'll say this too, that several times of having kids in strollers in the parks, sometimes the bumpiness of not having that nice, luxurious, bouncy seat, it puts them to sleep a little bit. And so it has the added benefit of kind of acting as a rocker to rock them and shake them to where they kind of settle after all of that excitement that they're experiencing in the parks.
Yeah. And I will say, not only would you have to pay for a stroller rental, but those things aren't small either. They're kind of big and bulky when you rent a stroller at Walt Disney World. And to me, I don't know, using it other places, using it around the resort, you only rent it at the parks. So having a stroller at the resort is a great option as well, just by taking your own. Which kind of leads me to my next tip, which is spend maybe a little more time at the resort than you would expect. Find one with a good pool. Stay at a resort with a good pool. When I was a kid, we would go to one park in the morning, come back, take a nap, maybe go hang poolside for a little bit, and then go to a different park in the afternoon. Now, I'll say back then the parks were smaller and there was less to do at each park, less crowded probably too. Secondly, right now park hopping's a little tougher because of COVID restrictions and having to register, kind of reserve your spot at the parks each day. But still, you could go to a park in the morning, come back after lunch, take a nap, go back in the evening, especially once it's cooled off. So you're not there with your kids in the heat of the day. Take a little dip in the pool. And I think that'd be a blast. So spend more time at the resort. Don't necessarily get your heart set on spending every waking moment at the parks, which is what I like to do.
It's interesting that you say that because I feel that my kids are getting to an age now to where if we go experience something for the first time all together as a family, that the expectations are created then. But for my family, we've been going to Disney for so long, for so many years, that the expectations have been set for my kids now as teenagers. They were set, again, a decade ago when we first went when they were 3 and 5 years old. And so they didn't know that going to a park for one day and then going just to hang out poolside for a full day in between our parks. Like usually we'd go to a park, then a pool day, and then a park, and then a pool/hotel amenity day at the resort kind of thing. We would do that. And they just thought that was part of the vacation. So it allowed us to stretch out our dollars because we weren't always in the parks. And again, kind of what you were saying of trying to find Disney always does a good job, even at their value resorts, of making the pools memorable and fun, especially for kids. But one of our favorite vacations that we still talk about a lot was when we went to the Yacht and Beach Club, because we've got that. I mean, the pool there is it's at another level than if we were staying at the All-Star Sports or movies or something like that. And it was like the sandy bottom. We still talk about the idea that they almost enjoyed those days as much as going into the parks to experience some of the things like, Peter Pan for the first time, or, It's a Small World, or whatever it may be. They enjoyed the pool time. And again, like, it's almost a freebie day for us because we're already there. We've already paid for our stay at the resorts, but to be able to enjoy the amenity at the resort that doesn't cost an extra thing. Wow, man, it really helped us when we were more on a fixed budget when we would go and try to have a fun vacation. So it stretches our dollars, it stretches the experience, it stretches the time that we can stay there. Just a win-win. And I mean, I'm sure that, with one under 2 years old, like you're experiencing right now, the more that you can do to like knock out some energy for them, the better. And so the park days were great, but we're pushing them a lot. And so they still get tired because of the sun and the heat and the sweating and all that kind of stuff and the excitement of what they're experiencing in the parks. But I felt like the days that we were poolside, they tuckered themselves out that much more. And so it just made for even in those instances, it allowed them to get their energy out in ways to where we didn't have to constantly be on top of them in a way that we would at the parks to try to continue to like, let's go to the next thing. Let's keep them entertained. Let's not just sit here. Let's keep moving. At the park and poolside, we're still having to keep our eyes on them because they're little, but it's a more manageable thing that they have a bit more expectations there because they can do that at grandma's pool or the backyard pool or the neighborhood pool or whatever, even when they're not on vacation.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, gotta think about wearing them out. I've got one who does not like to take naps, does not like to go to bed at night. So you better believe after dinner, I run him. I let him run up and down the hallway. Just here at home, just whatever I can do to get him to wear himself out. Something that as a new parent, I've kind of learned, and maybe it's also just kind of my eternal optimist. I've realized I don't need to take as much stuff as I think I do. So I don't need to take 16 spare diapers when we're just running down the street for 10 minutes.
Sure.
Heck, a lot of times I'll gamble and not take anything but my kid and say, all right, let's hope you don't have any blowouts. Let's hope you don't spit up. None of that. So there are things like strollers that you can rent. There are a lot of things, a lot of amenities there that you can pick up or have delivered to your room. So you don't necessarily have to pack it, especially if you're flying and you're much more limited on cargo space. Maybe buy a pack of diapers if they're still in diapers and have it delivered to the hotel. You can have things like that delivered to the front desk, and then you can pick it up when you check in. But yeah,
another tip on that one,
as much as you think.
Yep. Another tip on that, on something that we have done is if we're going to go to Disney for a week at a time, then we brought enough stuff like that we needed. If we're going to like make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the room every now and then, instead of having to pay for yet another meal inside the parks, especially if we're coming back to the room for a midday nap or something anyway, that at one point I remember a trip or two where we would put the kids down for the naps. My wife would stay there and hang out with them and try to get a nap herself or do a crossword puzzle or something, do some reading to just kind of zone out for a bit. And I would go off property, get in the vehicle and go replenish what we needed, whether it was bottled waters or more peanut butter and jelly ingredients or more diapers, whatever it may be. So take enough for about half the trip, knowing that it's somewhere in there. You're going to jump back in the vehicle if you do have a vehicle, or if you want to Uber to a local grocery store or something like that. So you don't have to pack as much on the front end, knowing that you're putting out a block of time one afternoon to run to the grocery store and kind of replenish the things that maybe you need. Or if you actually haven't done these trips before and you're taking new ones, like I didn't know that I was going to need this, but now I know that I need to grab another bag of diapers or, whatever it may be. So it's good to go ahead and plan out a good 2 or 3 hour swath of time when the kid's down for a nap. If you've got two people, that one can be there with the kids, Another can run to the grocery store just to make sure that you can replenish halfway through the trip. And again, it saves some cash as well when you're not having to foot the bill for every little nickel and dime thing. Like every time you get a new water bottle or a Coke or something, it doesn't have to be something that you have to pay Disney for. You can bring it to the room.
Yeah, those mini fridges get a lot of use in the rooms when
Oh yeah.
Um, and then I think finally my last tip is check out the water parks. My wife convinced me to try the water parks at Disney World. I don't think she had been to either Typhoon Lagoon or Blizzard Beach when we went. She may have been to one of them before. Currently, Blizzard Beach is the only one open. Typhoon Lagoon is not open as of yet. But we took my niece, who was about 18 months at the time, and she had a blast. You go to both water parks were open at the time. Buy a 2-day pass to the water parks, and it's automatically upgraded to an annual water park pass, which is great because I used it later as well. I think I've talked about that before. Yeah. But lots of splash pads, things for kids. I mean, they just love playing in the water, and the water parks are a cheaper admission than to the big parks, to the theme parks. So you save a little bit of money, and kids under 2 get into all Disney parks for free. So it's a great thing if you've got a Disney itch, or somebody in your family has a Disney itch and you've got little ones, go before they're 2 if you want them to get in free. Go to the water parks if you want them to really have a good time. I think kids under 2 probably have a better time at the water parks than they do at the bigger theme parks. I can't wait to get my little boy down to the water parks. Probably won't happen before he's 2, but hopefully sometime in the next few years we'll get him down there splashing around on one of those splash pads.
And I think that this is something that is well versed or well talked about on this podcast, is the fact of how big of proponents you and I are, both with things that you can do that is Disney, that doesn't have to cost as much as going in the theme park, but still have a great experience, like miniature golf, like going to the water parks, like spending a whole day at Disney Springs. There are so many opportunities to not have to, like if you're going to be down there already, you don't have to be in the park every day to say that you went to Disney or to get that full experience. It can be just a poolside day or a Disney Springs day, or we're going to the water parks, or we're going to go do putt-putt, and then we're going to go go to the petting zoo that they have in several different places. And so those types of activities are not as expensive, but they're very memorable in and of themselves. And a lot of places that I know do things like around the pool at night, they'll show a movie. And so you can still have a great memorable experience that is, got that Disney stamp on it. And, something like the movies in the evenings, you get that breeze that may come in if it's not storming, kind of thing. And so you're having a very enjoyable experience at Disney. But again, you're watching a movie. And so, especially when we as parents are doing our best to entertain ourselves in as much as we can, but make it memorable for our kids. And, I think the first time that I went to Disney when I was little, I was probably 6 years old, 7 years old, which would have made my brother 2, 3, 4, something around in there. He doesn't even remember that first trip. And so oftentimes those experiences are for the parents to say that I took my child down there, which there's nothing wrong with that, but also remembering that, they will enjoy the pool or the water park just as much as the theme park, just like you were saying a second ago. And a quick side note as well, that something that we have also tried, it doesn't matter how old your kids are, but we have tried, we've never flown from our place in Nashville to Disney, which is something that we've always wanted to do, but we have driven down every time. But we have tried once or twice to rent a vehicle instead of taking our own vehicle, which is a thought to consider if you don't want the wear and tear on your vehicle, essentially, especially, those hot months. I know that 2 trips that we've done, we've taken our own vehicle. And on 2 separate trips, something happened with our engine. One, we had to have a complete engine rebuild. Another one, I think we just blew out a tire or something like that. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but we still had to have, we have a company kind of like AAA that will come and take care of us on the side of the road like that. But 2 of those instances have happened over the last decade with us going down to Disney. So for what it's worth, if you've got a rental vehicle and something like that happens, they are going to take care of it. If you're going to be traveling anyway, make sure that your car insurance and maybe have something like a AAA or something like that that can take care of you if you have instances with your vehicles, because it's the heat of the summer. It's demanding a lot with carrying all the stuff and the people and everything down there. And so even your vehicle is experiencing things that maybe it doesn't experience on a normal basis, especially for a trip like for us, it's a 12-hour trip just down there, 12-hour trip back. So that's a lot of wear and tear on the vehicle in the heat of the summer. So for what it's worth, take care of yourself. And if you have the funds to do it, go ahead and rent a vehicle so you're not putting any wear and tear on your daily driver.
Well, and if you've got a smaller car or SUV, you could rent a bigger vehicle. Now you'll pay more in fuel costs. But if you're going down for a week and a half, I mean, most of that time you're not going to be using it. So why don't you just rent it one way on the way down there, drop off the kids, the family, all the luggage, then go return it at the airport and Uber back or something. And then do the same thing for your return trip, rent the same vehicle and drive it back home. Just occurred to me some thoughts there.
And a quick one more thing. I think that in my experience with having rented vehicles, that for whatever reason, if I can go from my local airport and rent a vehicle there versus going to like a standalone shop in the middle of the city to the airport in Orlando, it's for whatever reason, it's cheaper to do it if I'm going airport to airport than kind of standalone location in the middle of Nashville to standalone location in the middle of Orlando. Yeah. So for what it's worth, when you're trying to price out things as well, you may save, several bucks, if not over $100 on a week-long or 10-day rental like that, if you're picking it up and dropping it off at airports.
Yeah. So definitely check your prices there or call a travel agent. They'll be able to help you with that too. Chris, I'm not sure we're going to have time to talk about teenagers this week, so we'll talk about it next week. So let's get into this week's segment for plussing. Plussing. Chris, you texted me the other day about this show called Made in a Day. Mm-hmm. Tell me about it.
Yep. Again, the other day, just kind of perusing Disney Plus as I am apt to do, to just like see if there's anything new on there. And I saw this thing with a big giant tire on there. It said "Made in a Day," and I was like, "Oh, this sounds interesting." I'll just click on it, and it's a TV show through Disney Plus that is from the National Geographic side of all of the intellectual properties that they have there. So through National Geographic, but it's talking about the process of making whatever it is. Usually, like the first episode is, how does Tesla make a car in a day? How does the Gibson Guitar Company make a guitar in a day? And so it goes on from there to all sorts of things, from sneakers to vehicles to musical instruments. And it was great. It's like a 30-minute show. They have some great graphics, similar in how you were explaining. And then I saw when I experienced it myself with the Drain the Oceans, of how it's great graphics to represent the statistics or the process that they're trying to show on the program. And it was great. Like I'm a Tesla fan. I don't own one, but I'm a fan of the company. I love guitars. We both love guitars. I love Gibson. It's located right here in Nashville, Tennessee. And so those first 2 episodes, I was just glued to the TV. And so I'm excited to jump back in and look at sneakers or helicopters or fire trucks, whatever they may be, but had a blast watching that. And so I couldn't text you quick enough to tell you I was watching Made in a Day.
As soon as you texted me, I put it on my watch list. Watch the second episode on Gibson guitars first, because as you said, we're both into guitars. Gibson's here in Nashville. So just geeked out over that, and then started over with Tesla, and I'm working my way through. But great plussing, just new content showing up on Disney Plus. So be sure to follow us on social media. We'll talk about some of this stuff too. You can also tell us some of your tips for traveling with young ones to Walt Disney World. Be sure to visit us online at themouseandmen.com. Get that top 10 things for grown-ups to do at Walt Disney World. Like I said, follow us, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe on YouTube. Let us know in the comments what you think are some great tips for parents going to Disney World for the first time with their kids. I think that you can take kids as young as you feel comfortable to Disney World. Some people say wait until they can remember it. I think it's up to the parents. I mean, if they want to see their 6-month-old baby in front of the castle, go for it. If you want to wait until they're 6 or 7 when they can really remember their trip, wait. No judgment on when you decide to go from either one of us. So
and again with my kids, they remember things to a degree on all of the trips that we've been on. But part of the reason that we wanted to, as parents, to take them as young as we did is we wanted to instill that love for going to the Disney parks as early as we could. And so just making it a family tradition, a routine, that when we vacation, oftentimes we are vacationing down in the Orlando area at Disney because of how much we love it. And that has set up a family of our foursome are just Disney fans across the board. And even as my kids are moving into teenage years now, their interests are growing and getting bigger, but they still have that love for Disney because it's just been a family tradition for us their entire lives.
Yeah, I agree. And what a great note to end on, because you don't want to grow up too fast.
But you got to keep exploring.